Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Fatah on Facebook, shut down, but not by the social media giant. The page glorified and encouraged terrorism against Israel.
The other outrage, Fatah is the political party of Mahmoud Abbas, who owned the page and its propaganda. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell has the story.
Palestinian Media Watch sounded the alarm recently in a 40-page report called the Fatah Facebook Terror Promotion Partnership.
We're finding is that Fatah uses this as its main social media means to send out its violent and hateful messages.
Director Itamar Marcus laid out in detail how Fatah not only was encouraging terror on Facebook, it also praised specific events of violence.
Omar Abu Layla murdered 2 Israelis in March of this year, within days of his being tracked down and killed by Israeli soldiers. Fatah on Facebook was calling him the perfect person.
According to Marcus, Fatah's page boasted 250,000 followers.
So Fatah is sending out its message to its youth in Arabic that they see Omar Abu Layla as a role model, as someone who they're supposed to be copying.
In March, Facebook sent Marcus a form letter, a response he calls inadequate.
They sent us back this beautiful letter. You may find this distasteful or offensive, but it doesn't violate our standards, so why don't you stop following them?
Marcus took action by starting a social media campaign against the page.
Thousands of people have mailed emails to the heads of Facebook. There have been complaints of specific items demanding that they remove this site, which promotes terror.
Then CBN News and other news organizations began making inquiries to Facebook. On Wednesday, the Facebook page suddenly shut down, with Fatah all but admitting its page broke Facebook rules against encouraging terrorism when its editor told the Times of Israel, "We decided to close it down for a period of time as a precautionary measure. We were worried that Facebook would shut it down permanently because of that Israeli organization's campaign and complaints against it."
Literally, they're waiting for the campaign. They're so upset and so afraid of our campaign that they're closing it.
Also on Wednesday, Facebook responded to CBN News after the site was closed. We received reports about potentially violating content on this page, and as we do with all such reports, are in the process of reviewing that content to determine whether it violates our policies. We did not, however, take the action that unpublished this page.
Facebook should just close it down and permanently, once and for all. Facebook has to stop looking for excuses, if they are, for Fatah, and they just have to close this down.
Well, Marcus is pleased the page is closed. He realizes Fatah could reopen it at any time unless Facebook takes permanent action. Another major concern is Facebook's inadequate response and inaction, even though Fatah clearly broke the rules. It shows why governments around the world are moving to hold the social media giant more accountable. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, it shouldn't surprise viewers of this show to learn that the Palestinian Authority glorifies terrorism. This is an issue we've been publicizing and trying to really bring to bear to the American public. I mean, for a long time, our tax dollars actually went to pay terrorists, that they were rewarded with monthly stipends. Under the current administration, thank God, that's finally over. And we're finally taking a real hard look at who the peace partners are. Fatah they glorify terrorism. You go to Ramallah, you go to places in the West Bank, and they will have city squares dedicated to the heroes who went and did despicable acts. They've got a whole space for the refrigerator bomber. What did he do? Well, he loaded a refrigerator with explosives and then put it in the middle of Zion Square in Jerusalem and set it off. And that's supposedly a gloriful thing, something to be glorified. We need to recognize that there's not going to be any peace when your opponent wants to kill you. They come out and do this on a regular basis. They glorify it. They call them heroes and martyrs. They pay them money. And is it any wonder that they put that on Facebook? Now, Facebook's got a problem here, and this is one where if you're going to allow terror incitement on your social media platform, well, that's just going to invite more scrutiny and more criticism, and they better watch out. If they're not going to self-censor and say we can take a stand when you advocate killing Jews, well, then you're not going to be on our platform anymore. If they're not going to at least take that kind of stand, well, then they're going to get some governments coming in to say, well, we need to police you. Well, we've got some other news, and there's a whole lot of heat happening right now in Washington, D.C. Congressional Democrats say there's no longer any doubt about the need to move ahead with impeachment against President Trump. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
And meanwhile, Gordon, Republicans are raising concerns about the whistleblower's complaint against the president. And there are new questions about Vice President Joe Biden and his son and their dealings in Ukraine. Jennifer Wishon brings us the story.
Democrats are moving forward with efforts to impeach President Trump, accusing the White House of attempting to lock down details of his phone call with the president of Ukraine.
If there were any doubt about the need for an impeachment proceeding, there's none now.
But Republicans point out the complaint is only based on secondhand knowledge. When I think of whistleblower complaints, I generally think of someone with firsthand knowledge of the events in question, tweeted Senator Lindsey Graham. Testifying before Congress, the acting director of National Intelligence also emphasized the complaint was hearsay, not corroborated by other folks, something the president expresses in leaked audio.
Basically, that person never saw the report, never saw the call.
Meanwhile, the Ukraine issue again raises questions about Joe Biden's push to have a Ukrainian prosecutor fired when he was vice president. Biden insists he wanted Viktor Shokin gone because he was corrupt, not because he was investigating Burisma Holdings, a company employing his son Hunter. But a newly uncovered sworn affidavit tells another story.
Mr. Shokin swears under oath he was told he was fired because he refused to drop the Burisma investigation, and it made Mr. Biden, the vice president, unhappy.
So what do voters think about a push for impeachment?
I think it's more about politics at this point.
A new Quinnipiac poll shows a majority of Americans, 57%, do not want to see the president impeached and removed from office. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hurricane Durian is no longer in the news, yet the destruction it left behind remains. Operation Blessing is on the ground in some of the hardest hit areas of the Bahamas. Its disaster relief team is providing humanitarian aid in the form of clean water, food, medical help, and more. Here's Charlene Aaron.
Durian slammed into the Bahamas as a Category 5 hurricane, the worst in the country's history. Thousands of lives and homes have been destroyed, and the rebuilding process is likely to take years. This footage, taken just this week over Freeport, shows the utter devastation in this part of the Bahamas, weeks after Durian hit.
20 minutes, it was 15 to 18 foot water up to the second story in plenty of the buildings, with babies getting washed away out of their mother's arms.
CBN's Operation Blessing remains on location in the hardest hit areas, including Abaco, Grand Bahamas, and Freeport, providing much-needed relief and support.
One of the biggest threats now is mold. So Operation Blessing is producing chlorine to help families sanitize their homes and neutralize the threat before it starts to affect their health.
We got water.
Medical help is also being offered.
What do you feel in your legs, right? Blood pressure?
Yes. In partnership with local churches, food, hygiene kits, and Home Depot buckets, which contain cleaning supplies and masks, are being distributed across the islands.
The people here, many of them have lost everything. And to have Operation Blessing to come in with the Home Depot buckets, we're just so grateful.
Meanwhile, OB is helping to meet the spiritual needs of those who have lost so much. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
The long road to recovery. Gordon, back to you.
Well, we're there. If you're a donor to the 700 Club, you're there too. Without your gifts, we're not able to do the relief work that we do around the world. What's happened to the Bahamas is absolutely devastating. Our first trip there It was like there's nothing even to put a tarp on. And so, you know, what do you do in that situation? Well, what you do is you roll up your sleeves and you say, what can we get to people, and how can we get kits to them? How can we get water to them? How can we get food to them? How can we let them know we're here, we care, we're not giving up on you? If you want to be a part of it, we actually have a designated fund where your gift will go 100% to disasters relief, whether it's in the Bahamas or right here in America, where we've got relief teams on the ground in North Carolina from the same storm in Durian. We've got another storm we're dealing with in Houston. Your gift will help us with disaster relief. So you can write to us, CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463, or you can call us right now, 1-800-700-7000.